Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Eurotrade. New name, same show. Now you've seen Aaron before me. He is located in Australia, so he's taken over the very early part of the session. So for those of you who want to see how London Open looks, join Aaron for that segment. We are all aiming to be almost at 23/7 broadcast network for futures traders. But welcome to the Eurotrade, who's ready to rave. For those of you who are over in the States, this is probably an all-nighter for you, so thank you for hanging with us. And for those of you who are in the UK and EU, good morning. Hopefully you're having your coffee and waking up and ready to kind of rock the day. If you've randomly stumbled across this stream and you've never been here before, hello, this is TopstepTV, the Eurotrade. My name is Deeyana Angelo, better known as Market Stalker D. I've been trading for almost 20 years, 18, but yeah, nearly 2 decades, and 13 years out of that I've been in the futures prop trading space, well before the remote prop trading firms were a thing. So we are going to have a look at some interesting developments. You know, we do have this whole trade wars happening. One thing I wanted to point out is that crude oil, which was my baby for about 12 years out of my 13 years of trading, is it back? Are we back? I mean, yeah, I'd like nothing more, but let's have a look at the OVX, which is a volatility index. Now, you guys know that I want to see crude oil over 35 of CVOL, CLVL, or OVX if you're on TradingView. That is its own volatility index. It's kind of like the VIX for equities. Well, OVX, that's crude oil volatility index, right? Now, in the past, whenever we dipped down below 35, that was a really painful environment for my style of trading. Not only did we have moments during the NYMEX session, like after the first hour or so, where I was checking my internet, whether it was on, like it was that slow. It just wasn't moving. There were no ticks. I would put it on like a 4-range chart. I would look at Ninzarenko. I would look at, 100 tick. It was literally just one tick. Then nothing for ages, and then another tick, and I'm like, this is the main session, what is going on? Now, we did have a bit of a dry up period during the previous election year as well, back in 2017, I think it was, so I don't know whether that plays into it, where the commodity, where specifically crude oil is not really doing much on election years, because they're like, well, we have a regime change, not sure what to do now, so maybe there's something to that. But look at the OVX now. It's almost at 50, right? Now let's see what that does to the overall, what do you call it? The average session ranges, right? I'm going to pull up my trusted Blazik indicators here. So the ADR has actually climbed to shock horror over 200. Now, I would like to see this closer to 300, 320, but 286 ticks per day on average over the last sort of 10 days, that's workable. So is it back? Is my mistress back? Is she back? We've been on like trial separation for nearly a year now, and yeah, it could be some signs of life in here. So I am going to start putting a little bit more attention back into crude oil. And on the other side, gasoline futures have gone absolutely insane. So gasoline futures are now looking more like NASDAQ to me. And while it still might be pretty fun to trade, I just need to figure out what sort of stops I might use there. Now, our Bob, our Robert, aka gasoline futures, they don't have micros. So it's like $4.20 as a minimum contract size. So if I am going to use a bigger stop loss, there is no really good way to limit risk in that respect, right? So this is another reason why when things go a little bit more crazy, maybe crude oil might be back on the table, right? So let's have a look at what we actually have on crude oil. Copper today is opening inside value, and it's right in the middle of VWAP for Globex. Very flat, so not really interested in that for now. If that market state changes throughout the course of the day, it's going to be back on my radar for today. The volatility is pretty high, so I found that I needed to expand my stops to 70 ticks, so double the amount that I normally use. It was like 35 before, but 70 ticks seemed to be appropriate. And one thing that I have been doing with copper, I've actually been trading it after hours, as in like the settlement goes through, which is earlier in copper. If you don't know what settlement is, it's basically the old pit hours. And back in the olden days, we used to have the pits closing and you wouldn't be able to close or open new positions. So close old ones, open new ones. So whatever you did intraday, that would be it, right? And that settlement price still remains to this day, but it is more an orientation point, because at this day and age, you can keep trading a lot of these products all the way to the end of electronic trading, which in Topstep is a little bit earlier. So they basically shut it down at 9:10, but at my time, that's UK time, so it's 9:10 p.m. But some of the brokerages will allow you to keep going until 10 p.m. Now, copper settlement, so the old pit close, used to be at 6:30 p.m. UK time, and that's literally like crude, gold. It's like it was the same settlement time. I'm just gonna tell my Bernard to be quiet. Yeah, one of my dogs is horribly unhappy that I'm not letting him into the office. So he sits outside and whimpers like he's such a baby, really. Yeah, so the settlement time can be an orientation point where you are effectively looking to see whether we kind of go back there or whether we go through it, right? It is a line in the sand. So it can be an accelerator or it can be a good mean reversion point. But what I found is that on copper specifically, once we're over settlement, you can still trade, but things settle down a lot. And that's when, I've found that I can still find some kind of fade trade. So whatever we've done up until that point, I would try and fade that move for like 30, 40 ticks. And, that's been working reasonably well. Probably because we have so much volatility kicking around that out of hours kind of looks like what we used to have during the regular trading hours a mere 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, before the trade wars and the tariffs, the dreaded T word. So let's have a look at this crude oil. I am going to let's save this and then maybe go to MCL on this side and just make this bigger. Probably get rid of one of the domes here. The dome, however you want to say it. I never know how to say it. Is it the dome or the dome? Weekly chart, massive time frame. Let's have a look. Here we go. Okay, it's very interesting, right? We're at the bottom of the weekly range. Tested many, many times, but I mean, my God, this is like 3 years worth, right? Almost 3 years worth. So where did we usually bounce from on this particular contract? Obviously, the prices will change, but visually, when you look at the patterns, where are we? Like, we're at the bottom of the range. Is this still a range-bound market from this massive? I mean, it's so weird to say, right? Because it's like, well, we have been in some sort of a downtrend recently. But when you kind of zoom out and go to the bird's eye view, it's like you turn into an eagle, paint your nails black to resemble talons. It's an hour in it. But when you look at it from like such a big time frame. By the way, that's a Bill Bailey joke, comedian from the UK, very funny, very talented musician. If you haven't seen his shows, especially like the first couple, really, really funny. And anyways, back to the market. So it is at the bottom of the range that has been pretty supportive. So is it going to be supportive again? I don't know. We're going to find out together. I reckon that if this whole thing breaks, we probably have either a problem with like crude oil demand or something. And I don't think that's the case, you know. China is one of the largest consumers of crude oil. Bruno says I say dumb, right? Yeah, I don't think anyone knows how to pronounce that word, so it's down to your preference. So I'm gonna call it the dome. Why not? Yeah, but if we, take some of the macro sides, the macro picture into consideration, is China not buying crude oil anymore? Like, are they stopping travel? No, because it's not the same thing that we had during COVID, right? Which is why the crude oil futures eventually went negative. Even though when I was studying for my Series 3, those textbooks and guidebooks, the study books are a little bit outdated because they were like, futures can never go negative. And I was like, really? Really? Because my empirical evidence says that they can. But there you go. Update your books, FINRA. So yeah, are they gonna go like into some crazy downward movement? I don't know. It really depends what how the market digests this. But do we actually have a problem with the world's demand in crude oil? I don't think so. So is this just like a comfortable area where everybody's like, oh yeah, crude oil at 60, we like it. Maybe. But I'm still going to look at this area as a potential bounce point. Now, whether it happens today, tomorrow, next week, I obviously don't know. I see the same thing that you guys see. But it's certainly interesting to keep this in mind, like massive time frame. We're actually, when I look at the visible volume profile from this entire available data, we're actually coming into the lower volume nodes. Now, lower volume nodes more often than not act as reversal points, but it's like if they're so big, it's kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly where they're going to turn around. And yes, sometimes they get traded through as well, also pretty quickly. But usually on the first try, when we run into this low volume area, which is basically created by this little liquidity grab on a massive time frame down here, when was that? That was 1st of May, 2023. So, nearly 2 years ago, right? We are 2025. Yeah. So nearly 2 years ago. So yeah, are we going to see a bounce? I'm going to be a little bit on the fence now, knowing what the weekly looks like. Maybe I don't just want to blindly keep selling crude oil at these levels, This is how the large timeframes can help us with some of that bias. And that doesn't mean that I will never show crude oil now because we're the weekly demand. No, there are times when we go too far out and then we can say, well, it's still a downtrend. Did we have a big time frame structure shift on the 4-hour or daily? And if not, shorts are still the appropriate thing, especially if we get later in the session, we see a failed auction. Crude oil does have that short bias, just like equities used to have an upward bias for like 2 years. It was just buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. So many people were just buying the dip, not even thinking about it. And now we're in like, sell the rally. Is that what we're doing? Should we? It's an equity. Should we? So everyone is a little bit on the, twitchy and they're nervous when they're about to sell equities because it's hurt them before, Your own experience tells you don't short equities. But here we are, and, clearly there's been a shift with the potential for a trade war. It does look like that most countries are actually kind of coming around and going, well, we're willing to negotiate. And was that the real reason why Mr. President did that, to like basically slap reciprocal tariffs, and then everybody's like, well, we want to negotiate now? Is that a way to maybe control what is happening with, American exports in a slightly better way? I don't know. We'll see, It's certainly an interesting twist and development. So he is a businessman. We know that. Whether he's a good businessman or not, that is up for debate. But yeah, when I was looking at that table of the reciprocal tariffs, I can kind of see his point as well. So I'm going to be Switzerland. I'm going to be neutral. and say, yeah, I get it. I've also spoken about the fact that in Serbia, where I was born and raised, like at this point, I probably lived in the UK longer than I have over there. However, because I've been here since like the early 2000s, so generally, when you look at the high street goods over there, like let's say makeup, L'Oreal, shitty foundations that are, they're okay, but makeup is just like, like I would not really want to wear that on my face, frankly, because of the suspicious ingredients, the fact that they test on animals, and a whole bunch of problems with that. But over in Belgrade, whenever you're buying L'Oreal makeup, the prices are so jacked up. It's like 4 times more expensive than what you find in the UK. And I was like, and so some people over there are thinking, oh, that's a luxury item. It's not a luxury item. It's a shitty high street foundation item. But because of the tariffs that Serbia imposes to the imports from the USA, the prices are so jacked up that yes, it's gotten to a luxury item price. Is it a luxury item? No. So it's just like the government doing like weird things. And, from that point of view, that's not fair to anyone. It increases the cost for a consumer. It lowers the profit margin for the producers. That's not a good thing. So, from that point of view, yes, I can kind of see why he wants to change that. Is the causing a black swan event the right way to do it? Well, he's a sensationalist guy with a bit of a comedy streak. Maybe he's correct. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he isn't. Maybe this is not great for anyone because it might cause inflation to kick up for the American citizens. And, who's going to get hit by inflation? The consumer. It's not going to be, it's not going to be necessarily the companies. It's going to be people who are buying the end product, right? All right, so we do have a bit of a bounce here. So what is going on the daily chart with the volume? Pretty strong volume. But here's the thing. Yesterday, we had this wiki candle. Let me just make sure you can see that. Again, we're not old. This wicked out candle. Very big indecision on a massive amount of volume. Can that maybe be the opportunity to fish for those reversals? And will that be sustained throughout the day, given the fact that crude oil is such a double-sided product? Sorry, Brennan's still being a dick. Sorry, excuse my language. So big volume, not really made any headway. That could be a sign of an exhaustion candle, right? We tried to go there, nobody cared, still massive amounts of sell volume, but we couldn't really push below the previous low. Yes, we made a lower low, but it wasn't sustained into the end of the day. So that's also another kind of little kind of poke in the eye that maybe, just maybe, we could have found a bottom. Now, I'm not going to fish for bottoms. I'm not going to be like, yes, let's go long right at the lows. No, we want to see market structure shift. I'm on a 4-hour chart now, right? So looking at the 4 hours, seeing where the localized POC is on the volume profile, which is the bigger volume profile. It might be that we look for the prices to hold above this 61.15, maybe look for a sustained auction higher. But to play the devil's advocate, if we start to go into this London value high and we don't bounce from the average session range low, which is just underneath the round number, where we also have some put supports, so put strikes sitting there. Let's move this to the middle, actually. Where is that? And, two hypos for now. Bounce from London value high into a sustained auction and to keep going. Or value acceptance, where we have one 30-minute candlestick that closes inside, so closes below the 60.33 point. This is for the London session specifically. Then we could rotate all the way through the value area, which is all the way down at 69.15. Sorry, 59.15. Get with it, D. Right under there is the average daily range low, which is my exhaustion point. I use a dynamically calculated average daily range exhaustion over a number of days, and then I use that as the exhaustion point. And there is an algorithm that one of the big institutions, or maybe even several of them, are running. And I also know that some of the bigger institutions are running it because we used to, like every so often, we rent some of our mechanical systems. So one of them, which does look at the average session range and average daily range exhaustions, it was licensed by 3 different institutions at one point. We're now getting more interest into the breakout algorithms that have started performing pretty well again. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, but it's not necessarily it's a concept that I sort of modified based on the ATR, and something that I was talking to one of my colleagues back in the day about. But for now, I would say that, knowing where those exhaustion points are in light of extreme volatility is still useful, because it calculates an average over the last 10 days. And it can actually give you a pretty decent idea of whether something is getting exhausted, so whether we are in the normal day or whether it's still an outlier day. So I want to see where the exhaustion point is to the upside. And this is going to be the full 24-hour range. Now, 63. So 63 evens on crude oil, that will be the exhaustion point. So if we get all the way up there and I'm not able to catch it to the long side, the closer we get to 63, the less likely it is that this is going to just keep going. Now, if it's a true reversal from a bigger time frame, there is a chance that we overshoot that and just keep going, basically going to that single direction trending day. But yeah. So those are some of the points. Out of stock fish, love the name. Is this market anything like you've seen before? Well, this is my 4th sort of black swan type event. So we had the credit crunch of 2008. I started trading a year before that. This is probably one of the reasons why, they were talking a lot about the markets, and, I don't know why. And in and around about that time, I was doing some songwriting with one of the producers who actually used to produce for Rihanna, Ponder Replay. He was one of the 7 writers that wrote that. So anyways, when I was a musician, I went to Florida, to Orlando, to do some songwriting, and he was the one doing vanilla options, right? He was doing a lot of stock market stuff, so we started talking. And at the time, I was just kind of honing my skills as a trader, and I kind of found it really interesting. Now, very soon after that, we had the credit crunch, literally a month after, or no, it was a couple of weeks after I came back from Florida. Suddenly, the whole market just started crashing. So it's the Niger crisis, Niger crisis, no job, no income. So that was my first sort of taste of what a black swan event looks like. And, as a swing trader back then, I actually found it pretty good. I liked it. So, trying to flip that Katy Perry song into trading the markets, I traded in the credit crunch and I liked it. But yeah, as a swing trader, I didn't find it that, we still had zones that were working, it was a liquidation. It was very obvious from that large time frame. Yeah, I had too much coffee, guys, sorry. So anyway, upon my return, I started looking at more markets, pretty much because the equities were so in the first, they got hit the most, right? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna see whether I can maybe start tracking that. And at that point, a year into my trading journey, I didn't feel comfortable trading it, but I could definitely see the changes even in the euro dollar. The ranges got bigger, my targets were getting reached quicker. And I needed to expand my stop loss. So that was pretty obvious when you look from the larger time frame, from the daily and weekly charts, that all of those supply and demand zones were suddenly getting bigger and bigger, with the supplies taking control. So that was the first one. But now my second one was 2012. 2012 was the European austerity measures when Greece went bust. Yes, they defaulted, the whole country. And that caused a huge initial wave of volatility, but then everything died. So it was like a complete opposite to what happened in the credit crunch. Now that was tricky for me because I traded Eurodollar exclusively, and then I just couldn't make it work. So I was like, maybe I need to go down to intraday because the ranges started drying up. And I decided that's how I'm going to go into futures. I needed something else. Tried to make intraday trading by myself for a year profitable. Didn't work for a whole year. I was like a swing trader. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I went to a prop firm to learn how to do it properly. It was a huge investment of time and partial location change as well, because I had to go to another country to do it. And unfortunately, the euro dollar just dried up completely. So this is where I found crude oil. And initially they put me on the fixed income desk. I hated that. I was like, this is the same as euro. Like, what? What's going on here? So 2012 was when I decided to go into prop trading, into intraday trading more specifically, because of what was going on in the post-euro austerity measures. Everything got locked down. All of the interest rates went down to near zero. That's not good for currencies because, you need that differential between the interest rates of two different countries to run something that's called the carry trade. And carry trades used to involve buying the currency with a higher interest rate and then just kind of letting it ride, letting that momentum sort of correct itself. You could also sell the currency of the other country as sort of the arbitrage opportunity. So we actually had a co-integration bot that we ran for like 3 years based on that before it started breaking down. So once that broke down, we switched it off and we were like, okay, so carry trade is dead. There are some signs that the yen carry trade might be coming back, but we actually used the Australian and New Zealand dollar for our basket of currencies. So maybe this is going a little bit over the heads of some of the newer traders. Like, co-integration, what? What? So let's just move on to some simpler terms before I totally nerd out on you and lose most of you. Let's have a look at some more questions. HG, so copper, can we call a failed auction? Let's have a look. No, because we haven't extended. I don't think we extended the initial balance. Did we? Do we? No, so we are holding the initial balance. This is where the market makers are still in control. Let's have a look at where the initial balance is. This is a daily chart. We need something a little bit lower to see. Okay, HG, because there's a H in it. Okay, so the initial balance was here. There we go. So that's the initial balance. As you can see, we held the low. And we, for now, are attempting to break out to the upside. But this is not a failed auction. A failed auction would mean that we would need... If you're thinking on the short side, I would think that this is not enough of a... So I see what you're saying. Yeah, is this a failed auction? As in, like, we went... Is that what you mean? We went like one tick out and then... I want a bigger excess for a failed auction. And I also want that to be accompanied by some clear volume on the short side and an increase in volume on the way down. So if we want to have a true failed auction, that will always be lack of volume upon a breakout and then a quick increase in volume to the other side. That is what drives it. That is what makes it a momentum trade. So this is just like a range bound market for me still. There was not enough commitment to even take this a little bit higher. So remember that the failed auction is based on the fact that they tried to get outside of it with quite some confidence, but then nobody else is there to take their order. They can't find business at those levels, and then it fails. But it doesn't look like this. Failed auction is a lot more violent, and actually we had it on crude oil. Was it crude oil? Yeah, we had it on crude oil. So if you want to see what a real true failed auction looks like, let's go to yesterday. I do need a 30-minute chart for this. Bernard is just being such an asshole today. Here we go. Here we go. I'm just going to draw the exact initial balance. He just doesn't give up. He's like his father, like seriously. Like his dad, the King Charles Cavalier, the most stubborn dog that I've ever had in my life. Like seriously. If he wants something, he'll just sit there for 3-4 hours and you know, until you give it to him. He just does not give up. And it's super annoying. Let's see the times. Times. Okay, 2 p.m. There we go. So this is NYMEX beginning. This is IB. Here we go. Meow, meow. Sounds like somebody's torturing him. It's like so ridiculous. Ridiculous dog. He's the one who talks as well. He's a talkative boy. I need to shout at him again. Just give me a second. Okay. He's probably not gonna care that I'm shouting at him at all, but there we go. Okay, so what do we have here? So they really, really tried, right? Extension, massively. This is an over-exaggeration of what a failed auction is, but that's what it looks like. They really tried to committedly get outside of initial balance, and for a time, it looks like they're succeeding. So it's followed like by a huge attempt and an exhaustion candle, and then they just turn it around. He sounds like a Pomeranian. I mean, he is a half Pomeranian, but he's massive. And then look at this. The very next candle where the auction fails, even on a 15-minute chart, brings a higher volume, so a higher volume candle that basically fails the auction, okay? And that's what drives the rest of this rotation back through the initial balance. So be very careful when you have like non-committal sort of like, oh, we popped outside by one thing. It's like, is there somebody wanting to take my order? It's like, imagine that you're like a really shy trader in the old pits and you're very quiet and kind of a submissive personality. And then you go in there and they're like, excuse me, can I buy one? And everyone's like, no. You go away. So, and then it just kind of starts trickling back down. But that is not this, right? That is just like a, more like market making, right? The market maker who's just like, just going to take a little bit here. But it doesn't cause the failed auction. Failed auction is usually caused by the other time frame participants that are like, no, we don't, like we tried. Is there anybody to take our massive orders here? And they just go, no. And then they go, okay. Or somebody liquidates, right? We don't know which side. You can never know whether they're actually actively selling, like initiating new positions at this point, or whether they were buying and they just got liquidated here because nobody, wanted to take it higher. So we can never know that side of things. But whenever you have like a non-committal extension of the initial balance, to me that's always a sign of a more responsive type activity. You can absolutely fade that, but just don't expect, I would look at it more as a range bound. So taking profits in the middle of the initial balance rather than expecting a full rotation is what I would default to at that point. Anytime I have something that is super slow, it's not a failed auction. And that's actually one of the ways that I deem whether something is a true failed auction or just more of a rotational day. Failed auctions, momentum trades. Quick reversals followed by attempted volume and then volume exhaustion and then a quick move in the opposite direction. Anything outside of that is just like random walk. If you're familiar with the random walk theory, that's what this looks like to me. So it's not a true failed auction. Yes, there's an opportunity to maybe grab a few tickies here and there, as JD would say. But that is not what I look for. You guys know that I'm not much of a scalper. Although, full disclosure, this $52 did come from 2 micros short scalp that I did on the basis of rejection start that again, rejection of the value area after opening inside. But then I know that those kind of things get taken, so that's where this was coming from. So I basically shorted it during this candle, and then I just pulled right back. So I just grabbed I think I grabbed like 24 ticks or something on 2 micros, and that's where the profit came from. It was actually while I was watching Aaron. Aaron was giving a great breakdown of gold. I will be honest, I don't really like trading gold for this time of day. But yeah, hopefully that clarifies, Joe, whether this is a failed auction or not. I would call it more a range-bound trade for now. So yeah. Nata animates Nata? Oh, maybe she's Nata, like Natasha. Anyway, Deeyana, what do you think about trading crypto? Did you try it? I would only ever swing trade crypto, but no, it's not my intraday thing. So here's the thing. Whenever you start stepping into sort of the public eye, whatever you want to call it, when you start gathering some followers, inevitably there will be some scammers that are trying to sell crypto to people. I'm a commodities trader. I'm not a crypto trader, okay? If, I will say it over and over again, be very careful if somebody DMs you, because I don't just DM people unless we already kind of know each other or we've communicated through like other means. Maybe you're on one of my courses, or maybe you are somebody who's in my VIP Discord group, through Topstep. I don't actually have my own Discord. I only do VIP via Topstep in Topstep's Discord. So I just want to make that clear. And I know that all of us get quite a lot of scammers that are going around DMing randoms. Unless I told you that I'm going to DM you via like some sort of a more public forum like Twitter or actual Discord thread that is public, or, we've talked about it, just expect that whoever is DMing you is not the real me. And the problem is that, Bernard, please, man, I'm trying to talk here. I had one girl message me, and she goes, "Oh, I didn't receive my payment for the Signal service." And I was like, sorry, what? And she goes, yeah, from the Prime Market Stalkers. And I was like, what the F is Prime Market Stalkers? No, it says it's just Market Stalkers. There's no Prime next to it. And she goes, well, and I said, I don't have a Signal service either, so I don't really know what this is about. And she goes, oh no, please tell me that this is you. And then she sends me a link to a crypto trading website that was very elaborately done, may I say. So there was like a whole bunch of random Signal services and then my name at the top. My name, but they took my Bob the Chameleon, the one that I have over there as my mascot of my channel. They took that and they made it like, oh yeah, she's at the top. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And she goes, that I got a DM. Yeah. And I'm like, you didn't get a DM from me. And I said, please tell me you didn't give money to this person. And she said, yeah, unfortunately I did. So because of that, I kind of don't want anything to do with crypto. I don't want people associating me with crypto or anything, because there's scammers that will use that. Oh, she traded crypto once. Let's go and scam people. So I don't want to be known. I don't really like crypto or anything. Sorry, I need to shout at Bernard again. I mean, seriously, like 40 minutes he's been doing that. 40 minutes. He's like, let me in. I'm going to come in. I'm lonely. You got 7 other dogs with you. You're not lonely. Ridiculous. Go play. Go play with Crichton. Yeah, so because of all the crypto madness and nonsense and stuff, I don't want anybody going, oh yeah, Dee started trading crypto, let's go, right? Because it's just going to give them more excuse to create even more like scammy pages and stuff. And I was unsuccessful in bringing down the fake page on Instagram. I'm not even that active on Instagram, but this dude again completely cloned my entire page and then added some weird stuff in the stories. And granted, his stories are probably more, I don't think I even have the stories section on my Instagram. That's how much I use it. I sometimes run Q&As there where I take the questions from people, usually over the weekend if I'm, a little bit bored and I want a bit of social interaction. Because, hermit lady over here. And that person has an underscore at the end of their name. So it's Market Stalkers underscore. That's not me. I don't have an underscore next to it. But this person was so bold to go and actually follow my husband. Now, I don't follow my husband on the business page because that's like, why should I bother him with my business stuff? And he said to me, do you think it's a good idea? This is how I found out about it. My husband goes to me, do you think it's a good idea for you to follow me like on your business page? Because I don't really want to see, like, I don't want to, go into your yapping about the futures market's not really interested. And I was like, I'm not following you though. What the hell? So, and for sure I checked my Instagram and I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely not following you. And he goes, well, who's this then? And he gets the scammer page, which I can't see because he blocks me. Yeah, very clever. Very clever. So again, no crypto for me. Do not want anything to do with it because of the bad experiences that people have had with scammers and stuff. And also, I'm not that keen on trading crypto intraday. I am very interested in the real products that have an actual physical tangibility to them, right? It's an actual physical thing. So copper, gold, crude oil, anything that you can derive from the earth, right? That can have an impact on the physical supply and demand. That is what I trade, right? Sure, I trade DAX as well. I do trade DAX here in London, which we still don't have on Topstep. Might come someday. But, I want to trade something that is my specialty and not just to kind of go, oh, I don't know what's going to happen to Bitcoin and, XRP and stuff. It's interesting, but I would probably want to spend maybe like a year just trading that to really understand what's going on. I don't feel like I have enough understanding about it. Like I know what it is, but I would like to, the way I am, I'm very nosy. So I want to know everything about everything. And I want to, really understand what they're trying to do with it, who drives that market. It is not entirely clear to me at the moment because from what I can tell, there's just a few crypto whales that, are driving the market willy-nilly. We do have some market makers now, but are they actually dedicated market makers? From the looks of it, whenever I look at BTC chart, it just doesn't look that way. To me, 15-minute chart like this doesn't look like there's any market makers. It kind of looks like it's sort of anchored to maybe like equities or something, and it's just mainly following what the equities are doing. Do we need another market that is similar to equities? I don't know. Somebody was talking about a safe haven. Well, if you're bailing out of equities and going into safe havens, shouldn't they be going the opposite way? So yeah, I don't know. The whole crypto thing, maybe I'm just too old for it, Maybe I'm just too old. Although Coach Paul, he loves Bitcoin and, he's slightly older than me. So I don't know. I'm not interested in crypto though. I will look at a chart every so often, but I'm probably not going to be able to give you too much insight into it. Certainly not to the depth that I can do in copper, gold, crude, where I really have a pretty deep understanding of what's going on. Let Love Win says the Sagane dog bark deterrent device. I tried that. It's an ultrasonic thing. Doesn't work on my cow poms. Doesn't work at all. We tried. I even tried like a spray collar at one point. It's not great, but we got a complaint from the one of the neighbors. Like, he moved in here. I've been here for 20 years, right? And this dude like moves in. This was like when they were little as well. We were like training the puppies, and we're like trying to train them and stuff. And yeah, sometimes they bark, but it was very controlled. Like, they only barked once at a cat for about like 15 seconds before we got them back in. And it was middle of the day as well. But he has his office in the garden, in the backyard, as you guys would say. And he basically was on a Zoom call or something, and he got annoyed with the dogs, so he reported us. So I had this like lady officer that came in, and I made all of them sit, I made them be quiet and everything. I said, they listen. It's just it was a one isolated incident where there was a cat outside and they all went berserk. But we got them inside, and she was like, "Oh, was that very late at night?" And I was like, "No, it was like 3 p.m. It's like nothing." And she said, "How long were they out there for?" I was like, "I don't know, 15, 20 seconds." And she said, "Oh, okay, so he's being a little bit unrealistic." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, but this is very stressful for me. Don't take my puppies away." And she said, "Don't worry about it. No, he's being unrealistic. He's expecting this to be like an office-based environment where everybody has to keep quiet. This is a residential area. If he wants to work from home, that's fine. But he has to have like slightly different expectations of, people who live there with their children, with their dogs. Like, what is he going to do when the next door's child screams, and it does happen quite a bit? Is he going to report that as well? Of course not, but he decided to report my dogs, so yeah. And since then, we kind of tried to make Bernard especially shut up. So we tried extra training. We didn't work. He's just a vocal boy through and through. He just wants to have his voice heard. And then we tried a spray collar as well, which I wasn't very keen on, but the trainer was like, did not work at all. He would spray him before he was going to bark. It sprays him and he still barks. So I was like, please, let's not do that. Like, I just hate using deterrent devices that are like, doing stuff. So I said, I'm not comfortable with doing this. And he does shut up eventually. But what works for him more is for me to actually stand in front of him and just go, enough. So that's the only thing that works with him. Anything else, when he's a super excitable boy as well, we're kind of working on that. But he loves talking. He actually talks to us through one of those fluent pet boards, and he's got quite a vocabulary. So he's got a lot to say, the man. And he's just a chatty boy. So it's like, Bernard is the name of the dog. I can see some people asking. It's just one dog out of our 8 dogs. So Bernard is the biggest. He is very smart, but can also be a bit of an ass sometimes. So, as you've heard, he gave up, I think. I think he's done. So there you go. How long did that take? An hour. After an hour, he will give up. Yeah. Ashley, I would love to let him in for a cuddle. The problem is he knows how to open shutters on my windows. So I have a bench that he likes to look out from. So as I'm doing these streams, he will go there, scratch at the shutters, they open, and then he starts barking at the doggy TV, which is the window, right? So it would get even worse. So I'm trying to train him to be outside for like the 90 minutes that I spend with you guys. And it's going to be a little bit of a process. He will get used to it. But for now, he's just going to have to deal with his big feelings of I'm abandoned, you've abandoned me. But yeah, with dogs, you just have to stay consistent, right? Good morning, Dee. What are your thoughts on platinum? Thought we were going for a liquidity grab this morning, but seems to have stalled at the moment. Yeah, from what I'm seeing, like across the board, and I have all of my charts on my 2 other screens, I think we're in a bit of a holding pattern here. There's no real initiation on anything at the moment. You know, everything's sort of a little bit consolidating or rotational, or, you know, there's no commitment to taking prices anywhere, right? Like even DAX, I took a DAX trade earlier. It was again a fade post open because it was a Frankfurt fake out. So I took that, grabbed like 170 ticks out of it in like 3 minutes. Like DAX is absolutely insane right now. So I got like 800 and something for the day there. It was, and I was only on one mini tax because I had to use like 110 tick stop. But yeah, again, it was a positive risk reward, so it's okay. Almost 2R. Yeah, I don't really see anything. So platinum, let's have a look at platinum while we're here. I mean, the most promising thing that I can see is this crude oil, if we can ever, again, decide to move. But let's have a look at platinum. Larger time frames first, weekly chart. New lows, where is this coming from? This one is also at the bottom of the range, man. What's going on? Everything's at the bottom of ranges. It's having a bit of a reaction though, higher. This is a very large time frame though. But yeah, they failed to hold it into a committed candle for now. We do have some releases towards the end of the week, so please keep that in mind. Thursday, Friday, we have CPI, PPI. CPI, PPI, CPI, PPI. Say that 10 times fast. Yeah, so bit of a wiki candle. Is this a liquidity grab on a massive time frame? It could be. I see that I've drawn out some demand areas that have been smashed, but now we're back inside it. That usually means smash and grab, right? 4-hour chart, very range bound, man. Look at this. Yeah. VWAP, Globus VWAP just there. Not really much to talk about in platinum. I would like to see them actually move it somewhere first. This was the initial balance. We're still inside the initial balance. Hasn't broken the initial balance. So right now, the other time frame participants have not appeared. They're not raving all night. They are just like, it's Tuesday, we're gonna sleep. So yeah, until the initial balance gets broken, and then I see how the price actually behaves around there. That's actually one of my rules, that if we don't have an initial balance extension, the most you can do is like the Frankie fake outs, or you know, anything related to the previous session high or low, they get smashed and then reversed. Outside of that, I really don't like trading whilst anything is inside the initial balance. So once that first hour is over, then we have a period of waiting for the other time frame guys, which is like the bigger boys who actually have a directional intention, whereas the market makers don't. They don't, like, market makers are not going to try to take the price somewhere. It's like, let's hold this for the next 3 months. All they're doing is generating liquidity. That means taking a tick here, taking a tick there, taking a tick here, taking a tick there, right? Generating liquidity. They have a volume requirement when you are in a market making job, which these days is usually just a computer, HFTs. But back in the day when you were hired as a market maker, you were given a certain amount of volume to fill in a day. So you would have to fill like 1,000 contracts per day. Like some people fill more, you know, they're like 3,000, 5,000 in a day. And that is what generates liquidity. The more transactions you have in a day, that tends to provide extra liquidity, where you can then provide a very tight bid and ask, a very tight spread, or even no spread, for your clients as a market maker, right? That's your job. So it's a very, very different outlook. Therefore, if you're looking at any kind of a move that is happening during the initial balance, it's more likely to be the market makers just generating liquidity. But once the initial balance is extended, this is why we see bigger volumes, because that is when those bigger institutions, they are initiating a trade that they believe has legs to go further. Or if they can't find business, they might go back the other way, but they all work according to the directional strategies and the intentions of that particular firm, what they want to do with a particular instrument. So it's not like, let's do 1 million trades per day. They're like, well, we want to position ourselves for such and such a move in crude oil because X, Y, and Z, and this is what macro is telling us, right? And sometimes they spend weeks filling their very large positions for their clients. It's just sitting there squealing. I need to get soundproof doors. At one point we used short copper. Okay, let's go back to copper now. I don't know whether I will short copper today, because it's an inside day as well. So not only are we still, 2 hours into a session, 2.5 hours into a session, and they're barely doing anything with it. I don't like to see this, right? I would like to see an extended move in a direction and then a pullback. That's when I would. So let's say, when would I short copper? If we definitely exit the London value, so let's see, stick outside of the initial balance and then pull back, right? So here's what needs to happen in order for me to run a directional trade. Let's try and change this rectangle to be, I'm going to change the rectangle colors to be like this, and then to fill that as well, so that we're kind of faking candles. Opacity, here we go. Okay, so let's imagine that we extend this all the way down. So you get like a big candle, goes down, closes below the initial balance. Come on, I want to grab it. What's happening? How do I move it? Like, what's happened here? I can usually move these. Like, what's going on? So that turns into a move. Yeah, okay, so I'll work with this, never mind. So let's say we have a candle that closes outside of the initial balance. Then we get maybe another move down, or maybe a slow down, smaller move, maybe a doji candle. And then we perhaps go back up to test either the initial balance or VWAP, depends on where we are at that point. So this would be a white candle at that point. That would be an area when I would short, okay? Now, how this transpires is obviously a lot more random, but that's the idea. You get a directional move that you intentionally let go of, and then you effectively long or short, depending on your desired trade direction. So let's say if you want to short it, I would look to short it at the new problem area, or maybe even a test of VWAP up here. So now if I'm shorting post extension of the initial balance on a pullback, there is a trick that you can use with the ATR. So this is something that I do when and these are like high volatility times. Somebody's asking me whether I've seen this sort of volatility before. Yes, this is the fourth time. Third one was COVID. We had something similar going on with COVID, but it was crazier. It was much crazier. This is like tame. We had like limit down in crude oil nearly like immediately at the open, and same thing was happening in equities. And yeah, so one thing that I was doing back then is to use the ATR. You probably can't see that, but it's basically for copper right now, it says 35 points. That's 70 ticks. So what I would do, I would measure the candle as it's like going against the trade direction that I want to take, and then I would go, where's the measuring tool? So here, I would go, okay, so that they started going up, so I would measure the high and the low of where those ticks would exhaust. So for example, if we have 70 ticks, I would go, well, if this goes up to the average size of the previous candle, where does that fall? And for example, right now, if we take that, it stops kind of at a random point and goes up, well, actually the exhaustion of the intra candle, based on the previous 14 candle ATR, is sometimes I will use 9 ATR as well, especially if we're like in the overlap, because I want to weigh it towards the last kind of couple of candles once we get into COMEX, so it's an RTH. You don't want to be using like London 14 candles and then try and use that for this sort of a measure. This would actually fall, like if we assume that that's what's going to happen, it would actually fall at the initial balance high, initial balance low. So initial balance low becomes my point of interest. Now, if we have an outlier candle where it completely reverses and goes all the way up and then overshoots everything, that's either newsy, so that's some sort of news, or we are basically just going to stop going. And in that case, I want to see whether maybe I have another point of reference higher up, and what does that do for the day? Does it make it into a neutral day type? Or have we left maybe single print? So let's say it's a news day, so it kind of goes nuts. So smashes down, goes all the way up. I will still be waiting to see whether my intention for the trade direction is going to change. Does that make sense? So I'm not going to be like trying to chase intra candle. If it's an outlier candle, I would be like, why? And if it's not an outlier candle, usually if you're aiming for a directional trade in copper, once it smashes below, you kind of measure at one point, is that going to exhaust that ATR intra candle? And that will provide you a little bit of a better way to time your trades rather than just going in after a massive candle. Like let's say it smashes all the way down and you're like, well, no, I'm going to short it. Well, no, because now it's an outlier candle and the likelihood of it actually jumping back up for the next one is pretty high, right? Going up after a big red candle, at least 30% of that big smash move is going to be retraced. That's the statistical probability that I also like to keep an eye on. I don't keep an, like when I say keep an eye on, it's just something that sort of seeps into your DNA after a while. Once you get hit, like the reason why all of us coaches know so much about why people are getting themselves into trouble is because we've been there. You trade for 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. At some point, you will notice certain things that happen over and over, and then you stop. I just wish that somebody had taken me by the hand. Like I had a friend trader who was more a swing trader. So, when I went intraday, he wasn't that helpful, but he was very helpful at the swing side of things, for the swing side of things. And with this sort of, timing of the intraday candles and, measuring when the right point should be, that's something that I noticed over time. So I used to be one of those traders that sees a big move, jumps in, and then literally, immediately, it would just come back to smack me on the face. So I'm like, what if I just waited for this to exhaust that ATR intra candle and then sniped it? Would I have been better off? Yeah. So whenever I see a big red or green candle, that's like, to me, pause, sit and observe. If you're already on in the trade, like on the right side, because it's happened to me on the stream as well. I was I think last week I was in a trade and it did what I expected it to do. So it went into like a more of a mean reversion setup, and it dropped down like 55 ticks in the space of a second, right? But yeah, it's one of those things where timing trades in a high volatility environment requires a little bit more afterthought or pre-thought, premeditated activity. So if you maybe look at it, and I know that there's so many things that novice traders are looking for. Not only do you have to watch the levels and the momentum and the volume and this and that. Trading is not rocket science, but the sheer amount of things that you have to recall in a split second is what makes it difficult, okay? It's not that you need to, be a maths major to figure it out. You don't. It's mainly a pattern recognition sort of exercise, right? But it's how you behave under stress and under pressure when things start really moving. That is where you need some more elaborate tools that only crop up in high volatility environments. Okay, you're not going to get this every single time, and you're not going to get this every single year. This might be like for the next sort of month or so while we figure out what's going on with the trade war, and then it's going to go back to normality, maybe. But we don't know that. This could stay. Like last time we had extraordinary volatility in COVID, it sort of dried up a little bit, but still remained pretty high, right? Especially in equities. We used to have like 12 to 20 point ranges in ES for many, many years. Then COVID hit, and then that sort of settled to around 100 points. But NASDAQ went to 500 points. Like when I started looking at the equities, when they first put me on an equities desk, back in 2013, NASDAQ had like a 75-point ADR. Because the ADR is something that I've been using the longest. I probably started using it within like the first 6 months of my trading. So I've been watching ADRs in my side of things, like how I use them, for a very, very long time. And NASDAQ, 75-point range on average. Now, 500, 700. I can't even look at what it is now. It's probably like, it's gone completely insane. And if I didn't like it back then, I'm for sure not going to like it now. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's crazy. So that's doubled the amount of tickage that we have available. Usually it's 1,500 ticks. It's now gone up to 3,220. I don't think I've ever seen anything that is over 3,000 tick average. That's insanity. Like, what the hell is going on? Now this, yes, we've seen this during COVID, but I mean, that's 806 points per day versus 75 points that we had 12, 13 years ago, yeah? It's nuts. It's absolutely insane. So if you guys are struggling with NQ and you can't make it, like, here's why, okay? Look at this. One candle is 100, this is a 30-minute chart. 134 ticks, not ticks, points wide, points. So in one 30-minute time frame, and if you take all of these over the last sort of 14 periods, it averages to 85 points, okay? That's taking in the small candles from Asia. So that's not applicable. And in fact, I could move it to be 9, so it's like more applicable to what we have. 91, so it's expanding. It's expanding, and this is probably going to expand even more. Let's have a look at it from yesterday, from the actual New York session. So what was this? This was average candle size in the first 2 hours of trading, 485 points. That's just like, even if you're like the most amazing trader in the world, I can't think that anyone can actually catch this on any sort of decent risk. Maybe if you're like just in a trade for a few seconds, that could work, maybe. But I know I wouldn't be able to hold the trade in NQ in this sort of volatility. Like, no way. This is way outside of what I'm comfortable with. I just need to put a note for myself to do an outro, because that's a new thing we've added for this. And yesterday I forgot to run the outro screen because we never used to have it. So yeah, Joe, that's the point I would short copper. Hopefully pull back, basically retracement, after we get some kind of a direction. But if we are in a holding pattern, even copper can go a little bit range bound. It certainly was yesterday. Yesterday was a bit of a challenging day on copper, and it just kept kind of wagging up and down. So it was not its own sort of directional self. So yeah. Thoughts on JPY? I'll be honest, I haven't looked at JPY in absolute years. Years, man. In years. But just looking at a 30-minute chart, looks very range bound to me. What's going on the daily? Bit of a megaphone pattern. Weekly time frame, where are we going? Sort of an upward skew, right? So we have a supply up here. Ooh, yes, of course. I was drawing candles. Okay, let's change the border to red. Why not? Okay, that's more acceptable. So supply there, drop base drop. Pretty decent supply with the committed move away from it. We have a tiny little demand down here, and we have a speed bump demand on the way, kind of like a stair step, and it keeps creating that. So right now, maybe it tests down of this area 0.0067600. Wow. Yen has changed. That's much lower than like 10 years ago when I was looking at it. But yeah, so yen I haven't traded in a very, very long time. Just purely from a technical analysis point of view, this does have an upward skew where, you know, you might find that it is on the way to this supply area. Outside of that, I don't know what's happening over there. I would need to like go back and actually see what they're doing with their monetary policy. Are they still at negative interest rates? Like, I really haven't followed it at all. So bar me kind of telling you where the tops and bottoms are, which I'm sure is very useful. Yeah, that's just it's a market that keeps making higher highs, right? But yeah, apart from that, I really can't be bothered dragging out another chart today because we have a lot of things to look at. So let's move on. But yeah, it looks like it's got an upward skew. So unless something really changes, I would be probably looking at it from catching longs on a retrace in JPY. So yeah, I'm just gonna get a little bit of liquids here. Jake says, D, the 4-hour candles on Topstep X 3, 7, 11 are different times to the usual Forex 4, 8, 10 that I'm used to. Which ones do you pay attention to? I will be honest, I do pay attention to the ones that you pay attention to, 4, 8, 10. One of the reasons for Topstep X 4-hour chart being different is because they use I believe they use the Chicago Open as the start, whereas a lot of the CFD and Forex platforms, and even the MetaTrader 5 from AMP, which is actual futures, they use the GMT London Open as a starting point. So that causes a bit of a skew in data. This is why I always say have a charting platform that you're comfortable with, okay? Doesn't matter what I'm using as execution platform, I will probably stay on my Blotic indicators and my trusted CQG data where I know that I have the 4-hour candles that I have done my back tests on that have a better better lineups with the RTH than the ones that start earlier or later and then mix overnights with, like, let's say Asia or London into the RTH. So that is what causes the data skew. So I absolutely fucking hate that. So because of that, I will use a platform where we're starting on the London Open, so 8, and then second best sort of 4-hour chart would be starting at 2 p.m. or 6, or so basically starting on even numbers rather than the odd ones tends to give a better readout for the supply and demand areas on a 4-hour time frame. It is a bit tricky. I will be very honest. I'm gonna go back to crude oil, just see what's going on there. Okay, we've had a nice sort of test of that London value high, still holding above it. And crude oil, some slightly bigger orders are coming in here, so let's see if we can do something here. It is trying, like it's trying to go higher. What is volume doing? Let's go down to a 5-minute chart. Okay, a little bit more volume there. We just filter this through. Interesting. All the bigger boys are... The bigger boys and girls, not fat, I mean, but pockets-wise. They are all trying to buy. I don't know if I should front run this, it would break my rules, but we're coming to, the last sort of 12 minutes of the stream. Let's see, so the current ATR for the candle is 45, so let's see if they can maybe retrace that to 45. Then maybe we can jump in, or maybe let's have a look at the 5-minute chart ATR as well. That's 20. How big is this one? 18. 18. Okay. So 20 would be 60.82. Okay, 60.82. Let's try a couple of longs, micros, because it's a 50K. Couple of longs. And if I wasn't on stream, I would just go and do something else whilst this is trying to make up its mind. All right, so we're into micro crude oils, rupee. Risking $70 on this, so obviously saving the profits that I've had here. And let's see if we can maybe get not too much, Where are the options levels? So 6150. Yeah, okay, so let's do, if we manage to battle through 61s, if this does pick up speed to the upside, we do have the potential to reach 6150, which is where I might want to take profits for this. So what's that? 1 point, bit too early to be doing math. Yeah, 1.5, 1.6 R, if it does work. So let's see what they do with this. Let's leave it in. 35 tick stop. Okay, so not really skimping on stops, but also not really massively increasing them, because this is the out of hours session, and for now there's no real reason to do this. But yeah, this is a front run of this trade. Normally, like I said, if I'm not on the stream, I wouldn't even think of trading this before it it smashes through the initial balance, but we want some tradey trades. Tradey trades. See some trading. Yeah, and I wanted to obviously go at least to the top of the initial balance, right? So let's wait and see. So I'm not looking for more. I'm just looking for whatever the range has already given us. So that's the top of the initial balance. So that's literally looking for that little rotation back up as a bounce from the London value high. So notice that I didn't take the lows, even though I was looking at this level. I'm taking it sort of from the middle, which could cause a bigger drawdown on the entry of the trade. But yeah, let's see if it can rotate. Would have preferred if this was a failed auction, then I would have sniped it a little bit closer to London value high, but they didn't do it that way. So we have to, this is where situational awareness comes into consideration. It's like, is it too late? Is there still an opportunity? It's not the perfect opportunity. I would rate this as a B star setup. It's a B setup. Primarily because we're still inside the initial balance. So there is no other time frame involvement to push this along. Therefore, this might be a little bit of a crawl. However, that is the direction that we have. We rejected London value high. We didn't go back into it. And we effectively are now trying to rotate to the other side. Breaking it down. Calvin says, thank you. This helps to clear up some confusion on my part. Okay, Kevin. That's good. 10 trading. Hello, Francis. Good to see you. Seem to have, disappeared off the face of the planet. What's up, man? Hope you were like on holiday or something. Like, got a good rest. But yeah, good to see you. Hopefully we'll see you on TopstepTV again. That's Francis Green, everyone. 10 trading. Stacey said, I'm angry with you, Dee. Why did you change your red hair? It was so good. I need to grab an hour's sleep before. Are you going to be on for fast markets? Not that I know of. Like, guys, I'm in the middle of trying to move house, right? So every day we're waiting for this stupid land registry to come through so that we can actually make the move and finalize this sale. So we're kind of like on pins and needles. Like, I have boxes, like you can't even see it. If I were so here, let me just show you what I have next to me. One box out of 70, okay? That's still not done because I still need 2 more boxes to get stuff from these drawers, from the drawers there. I literally have like boxes coming out of my ears at the moment. I'm living in a box. Remember that old song? So I'm currently living in a box because I'm trying to move house. So I am trying to not disrupt the stream at any, significant time. I may need to take like a day off or something. It depends on the completion date. But yeah, at the moment, I'm just trying to manage my life in a way that I can still do the streams without too much disruption, but also move house. So, the red hair. I know that this is a trading channel. I know that people love my red hair. I'm unfortunately still too sick to do the red hair. So I tried. I'm going to be very honest with you guys. I find it on some days like showering is like not on the cards because it knackers me out. It tires me out so much that that's all I can do in a day. I have a trading station that's like in my bed with Asus Duo, so I have like two screens. And some days I just cannot sit up or stand. It's gotten better in the last 3 years, so it's not as bad as it was. But me messing around with red hair, even with that shampoo that I showed you, it still takes a lot of maintenance, which I kind of forgot because I haven't had red hair for a few years. And I've had it for like 9 years before then. It was like red and black and quite elaborate. I had some white pieces as well. It was like very emo. And I loved that, but it was a lot of maintenance. Now, back then I was a bodybuilder. I was working out 4 hours per day, 6 days a week. No problem, right? Trading, working out, doing business, like whatever. It's great. But now, like you shower, like you have this is how people explain it with this disease I've got. So when you've got a certain limited amount of energy, and by the way, this could tie into to anyone who has normal energy, but you guys sit in front of a screen too long and then start losing the plot. One great thing that's coming out of this whole chronic illness nonsense is that I'm learning how to manage my mental capital and tiredness on almost like an athletic level. It's like so weird. I'm obviously sick, but when you know that your only energy, like take a look at the energy levels in terms of available spoons for the day, right? Let's say you have 6 spoons for the day, and that's your energy requirement. So 1 spoon would go towards brushing your teeth. Another spoon would go towards like walking the dogs. 3rd spoon would be making a meal from scratch. 4th spoon would be, I don't know, let's say trading, for 2 hours, 3 hours being on the stream. And then you get to the last 2 spoons, and if you run out of them before you're like, now I need to shower, your energy, it's like the phone, right? The energy battery is dead. There's no more. And you have to lie down. Like when I get to that point, I can barely hold my head up. Like I can't sit down and hold my head up. I feel like a baby that can't hold, like, I'm like just start going all floppy. It's very bizarre. So it's not like, oh, I'm just tired. No, you're like exhausted to the point of your body is breaking down. So me having red hair, it was a good, nice idea. And I love it. I do love having super fun fashion colors and stuff. But I just can't. I can't. Like, it's not possible for me at the moment. It's very difficult. It's, it would require me to hold my. First of all, you have to keep putting stuff on, right? You have to keep depositing color, as they like to say it. And after like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I don't know how long I had it. Maybe a month or 2 months. I reminded myself how much work that is, and I just like. So I decided to go back. If I get better, again, and I got to a point where I was like, yes, I'm better now. And then my illness is like, no. Where do you think you're going? You think you're going to have red hair and have fun? No, Dee. No, that is not possible. Mo is with us as well. Oh my God, it's the whole Topstep team. Very good to see you, Mo. Very good session on Power Hour last night. I was watching you. You very eloquently explained that you're limiting your risk. You are how you're approaching things as well. Like, I really loved your analysis. I'm just going to say that. It really shows the experience as well. And it doesn't matter the outcome of the trades. Like, that's not what I look for. I just look for, how a trader is approaching their style, and you kept saying, this is not what I normally have. I did not backtest this. So it's like, I'm not going to be doing things outside of my system. I'm going to try trading, but at the same time, I'm going to reduce the number of trades I do. I loved that. Absolutely love that, guys. So Mo is amazing. I love everything from your accent and the way you analyze charts. Your metaphors are awesome. So yeah, really, really enjoyed Power Hour yesterday. So thank you. Very good to see you. Paul H again, like all people here now. For RB, I'm using 2 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central for crude oil. So for London it's the same, Paul. For London it's exactly the same. For NYMEX, it's our 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. I don't know whether you meant 2 p.m. No, Central. So Central. No, I don't know what you're asking me. So hold on. For London session, we have no different. We have no difference in IB start time. It's all just London, and it's London, right? So it's going to be 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. our time, whenever that is in Central time. I think it's 2 a.m. Is it 2 a.m.? Yeah, so it's 2 a.m. Like all these different time zones, it's just mess with me. But yeah, so there's no different times. Like there's no like, oh yeah, NYMEX session, then COMEX session like we have, later on in the day. It's all 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. London time, which I think corresponds to 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. Central. Right, let's see. What's time doing? Oh, we're at time. Okay. Be the Kiwi. Be the Kiwi. Right, Be the Kiwi. That's a good name. Wow, Dee, didn't realize you had a chronic condition. I can relate to that crazy abnormal exhaustion and no spoon theory. Well, you're doing an amazing job training and being on here. Yeah, don't worry about it. Look, I mean, if you also know what it's like, it's just one of the things we have to deal with, right? It's not like, oh, poor you. It's like I will manage my time to look as normal as I possibly can. But then someone the other week noticed I was looking yellow, and yes, I do have some abnormal liver values because of the medications that I'm taking. So obviously on that day, it got a bit worse than normal. So I just kind of laughed it off. I was like, yeah, it's going to rock yellow now. Maybe I should keep the red hair because it goes well with yellow. So yeah, I'm trying to look at it from the point of view that it's just another thing you have to deal with. It's life. It's like it's nothing tragic or, yeah, I don't feel good, but it's just like when you have a bit of fun. Like let's say you go out with your mates and then you have a bit too much to drink. You have a hangover for a couple of days, right? Well, that's kind of how I feel with any social interaction where I need to stand up, talk to people, be in a loud environment. So I don't have to drink to have a hangover. So basically, I just look at it as, you have fun. There's a bit of consequence after that. And for me, this is fun. This is fun. This is how hermit lady I even before the chronic illness, I preferred to stay at home and to do trading, talk to, other traders. I'm just like a big nerd, basically. This is what interests me. I don't like going to clubs. I've done clubs for 20 years as a part of my music thing. And yeah, I'm over that. So whenever I can, I will actually avoid it. And yeah, it's just one of those things, guys. Like it's... Some people are very healthy, good for them. Other people, currently not. Might get better, might not. Nobody knows. But it's kind of like the markets, right? The uncertainty, woo. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And ultimately, no one really knows what's going to happen in life anyway, right? You just have to kind of roll with the punches. It's not to say that I didn't have a grieving period for who I used to be, but... it does hit you. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, it's all just great. Because it wasn't. There were many days where I was just crying my eyes out. And, but I've dealt with it. It's been 3 years. It's been 5 years since long COVID because I have a digestive problem from that. Yay, COVID. And then I got the vaccine injury. And, I ended up with this lovely condition that I have now. But I've gotten a lot better, okay? Don't get me wrong. 2 years ago, I was in bed 24/7, right? Couldn't move. So when I like, you can probably see it in some of my streams as well. Just before I stopped daily streaming on my own channel, I was not well. Like some days I'm like, guys, I can't get out of bed. Like it's not happening today. And then I just realized it was too inconsistent and too difficult for me to do that. So I took a big break from it. When TopstepTV approached me to do these, I didn't know whether I was able to do it because I was like, that would require, daily things. And then over time, I found a protocol that worked for me. It does involve some pharmaceutical medications and stuff, but it's making me functional. So for the most part, at the moment, I have more good days than bad. So that's a win, right? And, trading does require a lot of mental capital. So that's difficult. But again, not stressing myself out with too much size, keeping within, the risk parameters, using small position sizes, that is definitely helping. You guys know that I traded with size. That is a little outside of what I can currently do. Sometimes I have brain fog so much that I can barely put words together. You can probably see that in some of the live streams as well. But again, I'm having a really good week. I'm like super excited about the move, and I'm sure that stress plays a part in making things worse or better. But right now, yes, things are stressful because of the move, but I'm in a very positive place. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging with me. We're at time. I'm going to throw some links your way to check out our Discord and also give you a casting call in case you want to come hang with us. Here we go. Topstep Discord incoming. Here we go. If you want to find trading buddies, if you want to find us, if you want to get into more of the classes, we have Coach Hoop, Coach Ray, Coach Paul, Coach Jack. They're all doing like these daily classes. There's always something happening on Discord. And look at this. Crude oil is starting to move. So that's a good news. Good. That's a good news. That's good news as well. Damn. And casting call, if you want to come share your journey, doesn't matter whether you're on the big board or you've just started out, come share it with all of us. Come hang on air on the main broadcast. And yeah, so that will be it for today. Trading Nichols says long COVID ended my trading career 3 years ago. I'm so sorry to hear that. Getting back into it, as over the years, things have improved. Yeah, I've experienced the same thing. I get it. Went through a lot of health issues. Yeah, this is what we're here for. I know many people are struggling with those illnesses, but yeah, let's keep it going. Let's keep it positive. I know that with chronic illnesses, things can get a little bit difficult. You just get sick and tired of everything, but it is one of those things. Just know that things will pass. Because that's the way I look at it. I'm like, things will pass. I know that I feel shit today, but it will be okay because I do still have good days. Have a little cry. That always helps as well. I'm somebody who doesn't cry at all. But I can tell you this chronic illness has really tested me. So, yeah, it's not easy. Nothing in life is easy, though. So, who cares, right? Let's just try and limit our risk. See how these lovely markets are going to behave. It's certainly a challenge. Let's use it as an opportunity to learn more, maybe look at something else, maybe wait until things settle down, maybe just go into observation mode and journaling. Until tomorrow, we're going to have, hopefully, Jerome D joining us for another Neuroscience Wednesday, when we're going to be talking about self-compassion. Let's keep an eye on this crude oil trade that's just starting to move. You see, it's typical. As soon as I'm like finishing up the stream, they start to go into that overlap. And it's like, yes, let's get into a trade now that D is not going to be streaming. Anyways, thank you so much for being here with me. Always great questions. Always great to hear other people's experiences as well. So let's keep sharing, keep supporting each other. This has been the Euro Trade with myself, Marcus Stalker D. I will see you very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the main broadcast. Take care.